media communications and propaganda. Anyone who got here early saw some of the signs that some of us had the sense enough to rip them right off. Whenever you see these things, they just put them with measly masking tape. Rip them right off. You know, I don't know what the NYPD think about that. I don't see them coming after us for this. We're doing everyone a favor, getting it out of here. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. We're extremely humbled to be joined by a leader of our time. Please welcome Mark Crispin Miller.
Thank you. You want one of my face too? You want one of my face too? Just me. Wow. Thank you. I voted for him. Hi. Oh, Bill Gates, right? I really like the mask. Do that one more time. I'll get it again. Okay. Hopefully one of the leading intellectuals. Look right here at me. Straight at me. There you go. That's it. Hold that against me. Okay? Now it's perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. From the bottom of my heart, what my predecessor said. I didn't hear it. What Raquel said. I vibrated to that. But I want to make one small correction. Of course, my colleagues PhD right? I mean, the functional illiteracy is kind of breathtaking, and it's a big problem for us. And I am going to indulge myself a little bit by expressing some anger. Okay? But it is not directed at any individuals who have been intoxicated by the fumes rising from the rot of all our institutions. Follow me? So I mean, I have close friends, dear ones, formerly dear ones, former close friends, you know, many colleagues. It's impossible to talk about, right? And it's pointless to get angry. That's absolutely true, because that just spirals into a big screaming match. And when a mind is closed as tightly as a young oyster, you can't argue, right? You just don't bother. Don't bother, right? You say, point a phrase, you know, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That is absolutely true. That's true. You try to talk to the people who are on the fence, you talk to younger people, you talk to receptive people, right? The people who've been jabbed, you don't terrorize them by telling them what Dr. Baki has to say, true though that may be, but you don't sentence people to death. You just don't do that. You recommend, you know, a number of supplements and remedies as antidotes to the graphene in their blood vessels. You try to save them. That's our job, is to save people. We're the ones saving lives, right? It's us, is it not? Okay, now, that brings me to the question of what we're really up against. Okay, this is what we have to understand. What we're really up against. And I'm going to start to get there. I'm hoping I'll go on too long. Just do this right there. I want to read you something. This was on Amy Goodman's Plutocracy Now. And it was an Indian journalist named Arka Dutt, right? TV journalist in India. That supposedly gives her a kind of moral authority, right? She said this: when we watch what's happening in the U.S., it is astounding that people who have access to vaccine are choosing not to get jabbed. It's anti-science. It's self-indulgent. It's a very first world white privilege. Are there any kids here? Yeah, okay. Is she fucking kidding? Is that a joke? I mean, it's kind of like when your mother used to say, eat your vegetables, children are starving in China. Do you remember that? That didn't make any sense. But at least the vegetables weren't poisonous. You know what I mean? So the idea that we somehow are morally obliged to get more third world people vaccinated with an experimental gene editing therapy that has already killed tens of thousands of people in Europe and the United States. Those are reported deaths. It's probably in the millions. This is something beyond genocide, right? We have to face up to this, right? And you don't play woke games, right? Dividing people, white shaming people who don't want to get the vaccine. I guess Kevin is white, for example. Is that his white privilege? Please, okay? This kind of woke militancy works perfectly with the whole vaccine agenda, doesn't it? It is divisive, right? We're not interested in division. This whole nightmare has been all about dividing us. Maskers versus anti-maskers. Vaxxers versus anti-vaxxers. Who are defined more and more as despicable, verminous, disease-ridden. Does that ring a bell? Right? We can no longer, we have long since lost the prerogative of looking down at the German people, right? For their passive participation in what happened back then, right? We can't look down on them any longer because the exact same thing is happening here. Only it's happening in the disguise of concern about people's health. Now the Nazis kind of did that too, right? It's done more subtly here, right? So look, how did this happen, right? How on earth did this happen? Let's step back. It's hard to step back because this stuff happens by increments, step by step, right? Little step by step towards the equivalent of the gas chambers, right? More and more restrictions, and they loosen them up a little bit, right? Then they come down again on you, right? And people are scared again. And the more scared they get, the more angry and hostile they get at people who are not complying, right? That's what they're doing, step by step. So let's step back and ask ourselves, how is it happening that a 5 months pregnant woman in need of cardiological care is turned away from the hospital because she hasn't been vaccinated? How is it possible that a judge in Cook County just stripped a woman of her parental rights because she can't get vaccinated for medical reasons? How is that happening? Well, how is it happening that we're surrounded by people who are masking their children? How is it happening that people are driving alone in their cars with masks on?
Send them to China!
It makes no sense. None of it makes any sense because here we get into the realm of propaganda. Okay? We all know a fair amount about what's going on because we kind of shift our gaze from the screen inside the sealed theater and look elsewhere for information, right? Well, most people don't have the time or inclination to do that. Most people don't even know they should do that. Now, it was that way in Germany, it was that way in the Soviet Union, certainly, right? But here, we have this mask of free speech. We have a First Amendment. So people figure, I'm well informed, especially those with PhDs. I'm well informed. I can't be fooled. I'm smart. I'm not like those deplorables, right? I'm smart. they're not, okay? Well, the fact is that even here, maybe especially here, even though there's no single central authority running the whole media, right? It's kind of a cartel of corporate interests that are all operating on the same script. Our media is functioning exactly like the media systems in closed societies, so-called. It is exactly the same, and it's probably more efficient, right? So, what do people not know? They don't know what the survival rate of COVID-19 is, 99.7%. They don't know, therefore, that strictly speaking, it is not even a pandemic, right? They don't know that the novel coronavirus isn't even novel at all and may not even be a virus. It's never been isolated. So we don't know what the pathogen is that's killing certain sectors of the population. These are things we don't know, right? They don't, well, that's just it. If you have trusted in these voices, in this system, these authorities all your life, you consider yourself a well-informed person, and the alternative to believing what you're hearing is to believe something very scary, right? Most people won't do that. Won't do that, right? It's too difficult. So that leaves us to do it, right? It leaves us to do it. And I think that we can do it. In fact, I know that we will do it. The reason I know that is, and this gets to the heart of the matter, this is the important thing to understand. We're not just up against big pharma, all right? This is not just about corporate greed, okay? This is about something else. It is that, but it's more. What it is something that makes those people out there unwilling to confront what's going on. It's the hardest thing to face, and that is that what's happening here is guided by pure evil. Let me say that again. We are dealing with evil. Evil. Okay? And I'm certainly not saying that all those people who spit on us and want us to be unemployable and incapable of travel, have our children's taken away from us, have no access to our money, they're not evil, right? They are participating in evil. They are intoxicated by evil, because evil at this point in human history is extremely good at mass manipulation, right? Dr. Fauci is a kind of a genius at misinformation and confusion. Contradicts himself. The things he says it's gaslighting. It's a form of gaslighting.
It's like 40 years of gaslighting.
But those driving this thing, right? And they've actually been fairly straightforward about it. They want to reduce the human population of the world radically. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a demonstrable fact.
Democide.
Bill Gates said it in 2010 in his TED Talk. He said, we really need to lower the world population by 10 or 15%, and we can use vaccines to help accomplish that. Okay? 10 to 15%. You know how many millions of people that is? And it's not 10 to 15%. It's much, much more than that. Bill Gates is a eugenicist. We're talking about eugenics. Bill Gates' peer, fellow eugenicist, Ted Turner, is not as discreet as Bill Gates. Bill Gates, with the lavender sweaters, flapping his hands around, right? He's so big, kind of the benevolent nerd, right?
He's not a scientist!
So he knows enough not to say what he really wants, but Ted Turner has said it. He thinks global population should be reduced by 80 to 95%. 80 to 95%.
Yep.
Now, Bill Gates is now the biggest owner of farmland in the United States. biggest owner of farmland in the United States, right? Bill Gates has 3 children. Ted Turner has 5 children. David Rockefeller, right, who was sort of their guardian angel until he passed on, assuming his brain is not in some, jar and kept alive. Never mind. He had 5 children. See, they multiply like rabbits, right? But they want us not to have any children, right? That's the plan, okay? We're up against evil, and if we face that and deal with it calmly, in the confidence that they cannot win.
The power of the Lord. Only way to fight is the power of the Lord, not anything else. Be strong in the Lord, the power of His might. That's what we want to say. Yeah, strong in the Lord Jesus Christ. Name the Lord Jesus. Fight evil with Jesus. That's how you fight evil.
I mean, it has won temporary victories in some parts of the world. But overall, this is a globalist project. They want, and they've so far succeeded to an astounding extent, they want the entire world to be completely dominated and controlled on the model of China. China and the U.S. are not really enemies. The globalists love the Chinese system, right? And it was China that first demonstrated the, here we go. No, Soros doesn't hate China. You can talk. Right, I don't hate Russia or China. Okay, you see what happens, you notice what he's doing? He's trying to drown me out and distract me because he doesn't want me to be saying what I'm saying. Right? Because this could end up as footage on the news.
Yeah.
It's like when they call you a conspiracy theorist, right?
Which is a great
title to have. That is an admission of defeat.
Yes.
Because they have not contended with your argument. They don't want people to hear your argument. So they say you're a conspiracy theorist, or you hate China, or you hate Russia. Fuck you. Very articulate, very eloquent. That's the level they operate at, right? Okay. The Chinese system, right, is something that the globalists actually admire and are emulating, not the Chinese people. I reckon that I have talked to many, many more Chinese citizens than this guy has, because NYU has more Chinese students than any institution in the country, and I'd rather listen to them about what it's like there than this guy. All right. Let me wrap up, right? Since this is an evil project whose aim is to radically reduce the numbers of the rest of us through division, right? Through by stoking anger and hostility between us, right? And then to leave a remnant of humanity that is so mind-controlled and addicted to the boosters, right? And pushed around by whatever psycho-technological instruments they may have, right? Who will serve them in perpetuity in a kind of neo-feudal system where those left alive will own nothing, they will have no privacy, and they will never be happier, right? That is on the website of the World Economic Forum, right? None of this is conspiracy theory. All of this is going on. Anybody who tells you it isn't is gaslighting you, right? So, basically what you have to do is keep talking calmly to those who will listen. You don't argue with people who will just scream at you if they don't like what you're saying. You don't bother. It's not worth it. It's a waste of energy. It just gets you upset. You know, again, those who have been jabbed, you try to help them out, you suggest things they should take, you want to save their lives. You don't hold their anger against them, right? Because ultimately, that's what we're about. We're the ones saving lives. Dr. Fauci and Gates and Merck and Pfizer and Moderna, Johnson and Johnson, right? And all of their accomplices throughout the media, New York, Plutocracy Now, the New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, Fox with a couple of exceptions. I could go on and on. They're all bankrolled by the same interests. They're dedicated to the project of taking lives, not saving them. So let me end by saying this. This is a moment at which you can no longer say you're not involved. If you say you don't have a position on this, you haven't made your mind up, the subject bores you, this is what Caitlin Johnstone said, you can't do that anymore, all right? Either you stand on this side and try to expose the criminality of what's going on and to stop it as soon as possible, or you're on the other side. And if you're on the other side, I'm warning you that you will stand before the bar of history. And when your children, some of them may be damaged for life, come and ask you, why did you have me injected? Ask yourself what it is you could possibly say. Okay? So these people have got to be encouraged to think about what they're doing, if that's possible. And the rest of us just have to keep fighting, right? Confident in the knowledge that we will prevail.